Hey there! Welcome to PCI 101 from Security Metrics, your guide to the 12 PCI requirements. Each requirement is essential for the security of your business and your customers. These requirements are packed with important details, but we know they can be a bit overwhelming. So we created this video series to simplify them one by one so you can better understand what they are and help your business become PCI compliant. By the end of this series, you'll be ready to tackle each of the 12 requirements with increased confidence and clarity. So, let's get started. Let's dive into requirement 1, install and maintain network security controls. The first requirement is all about firewalls. Think of a firewall like a security guard that only allows specific traffic to come through your network. For your organization, a firewall will filter unauthorized access to your data and make sure that any cardholder info stays secure. To be PCI compliant, you'll need to have a firewall in place, controlling the traffic that comes in and out of your network. When deciding where to start, there are two types of firewalls to consider: perimeter firewalls and personal firewalls. A perimeter firewall is typically installed on the edge of an organization's network to protect your internal systems from untrusted networks that come from the internet. Perimeter firewalls have several benefits. They're the most robust security option. They can protect an entire network. They can segment internal parts of a network. But they also have their drawbacks. They need to be carefully documented. They're generally more expensive, and they can be more difficult to set up and maintain. A personal firewall can protect a device from outside threats, including those from other devices that share the same network. These types of firewalls should be set up for devices that commonly connect to sensitive data networks. The benefits of personal firewalls are: they're less expensive, they're easier to maintain, they can protect mobile workers when they're outside the corporate network, but they're also more limited. It doesn't protect an entire network. It often has fewer security options, and it can't be used to replace perimeter firewalls for network segmentation. Remember, perimeter firewalls protect entire networks, while personal firewalls protect the system that they're on. The compliance guide PCI DSS requires that a firewall is placed between systems that store cardholder data and any systems on your network that can be accessed from the internet. When setting up firewall rules, you should limit traffic to only essential required protocols, ports, or services, and have business justification for those required elements. Set up your firewall rules so that if an attacker does compromise your wireless network or device, only inbound and outbound protocols, ports, and services that have been previously authorized would be allowed access. Do your due diligence when deciding which traffic is required for your business operability and know why it's required. If you take extra care in choosing and setting up the firewalls for your business, you'll keep your customers and your team secure. Requirement 2, apply secure configurations to all system components. This requirement focuses on the importance of passwords. While setting up your organization's passwords may seem simple enough, they're essential to a secure environment. To meet this requirement, change all default passwords, usernames, and other security settings that come preset on every device within your organization. Choosing not to change default settings makes it easier for an attacker to access and steal your data. Default user accounts, guest accounts, preset usernames, and simple passwords are a hacker's dream because they're easily guessed. Here are some important configuration settings that should be addressed throughout your organization. Remove any unused applications. Remove or disable default user and guest accounts. Change default passwords. Remove any unnecessary system processes. If possible, limit systems to have a single responsibility, such as only storing sensitive data. Keep in mind that every employee needs their own unique password that isn't easily guessed. An easy way to remember complex passwords is by using passphrases. Passphrases are a group of words which might include spaces and punctuation, as well as numbers and special characters. Passwords must be changed every 90 days. Passwords that don't use these standards are more vulnerable to password cracking tools. Remember, a business is only as safe as its passwords. Requirement 3, protect stored account data. The third PCI requirement is centered around protecting sensitive data. Things like credit card info, personal customer data, and PIN numbers all need to be processed and stored with as much security as possible. A business won't get very far if they don't prioritize this. First off, it's important to know what you can and cannot store as an organization. Here's what you're allowed to store: primary account numbers, or PANs, cardholder names, service codes, and expiration dates. The types of data you store might impact your SAQ type. Here's what you're not allowed to store: magnetic stripe track data, PIN or PIN block, or any of these type security codes. Only store data that's necessary for your business. Your IT security team should work closely with your executive and legal teams to decide what data you store, why you need it, and how long you'll store it. Data that you do store should be encrypted, especially PAN data. Here are some additional steps to keep in mind. Stored card data must be encrypted using industry-accepted encryptions like AES-256. Assign an employee or team to keep unencrypted card data off your systems. Create a card data flow diagram to help you keep track of your data and monitor how card data moves through your organization. Use a card data discovery tool like Security Metrics PanScan to find out if you're storing any unencrypted data that you aren't immediately aware of. Keep track of what you store and make sure it's secure. Requirement 4, protect cardholder data with strong cryptography during transmission over open public networks. For requirement 4, encryption is key. When you store sensitive data like credit card info, encryption makes that data unreadable to those who aren't supposed to read it, keeping you and your client's information secure. Specifically, it's vital to encrypt any sensitive data that's sent over the internet, especially if it's being sent over public networks. Here are some examples of open public networks: the internet, Bluetooth, cell phone, GSM, and wireless internet. Where and how you are sending sensitive data will also help you determine what you need to encrypt during a transmission. Here are a few common places that card data is sent: processors, backup servers, third parties that store or handle PAN, outsourced management of systems or infrastructure, and corporate offices. It's important to have a complete understanding of the technologies you use and where your organization stands with your security processes. Securing your customers' sensitive information should be one of your top priorities. Requirement 5, protect all systems and networks from malicious software. Every day, over 500,000 new pieces of malware are detected across the internet, which is why the 5th PCI requirement is about safeguarding your organization with anti-malware. This software helps prevent, detect, and remove malicious software from your devices. For this requirement, you'll need to install up-to-date anti-malware software on your network that is actively running on all computers, mobile devices, and any device that's used for payment processing. Anti-malware software offers an additional layer of security and defense to any system within a network. You are also required to install anti-malware software on all systems that are commonly affected by malware, such as Windows servers. While Linux servers are not commonly affected by malware, we recommend that anti-malware be installed for any web-facing Linux server. Make sure that anti-malware scans are performed regularly. Be sure your software and signatures are updated on a regular basis to detect known malware. Check with your anti-malware provider to see if they maintain your anti-malware scanning or if it's on you. Malware comes in many forms, causing all kinds of fear and stress, but with the right prevention software and regular maintenance, you can rest assured that you'll be protected. Requirement 6, develop and maintain secure systems and software. Staying up to date with all of your software and apps is vital. While it may be annoying to constantly update the software on your devices, neglecting to do so can mean the difference between safe and exposed. Hackers are constantly looking for ways to exploit the tools that businesses use, including those that are out of date. If you've developed payment applications within your organization, such as e-commerce websites or point-of-sale applications, make sure to follow strict development processes and secure coding guidelines, like the Open Web Application Security Project Standard, or the OWASP for short. It's important to remember that app developers make mistakes, and things can fall through the cracks, which is why it's critical to be aware of updates available for your systems. Once you learn about a new update, make sure you patch all critical systems you're using, like internet browsers, firewalls, application software, databases, point-of-sale terminals, and operating systems. If you don't, your system may be vulnerable to malware and other security issues, allowing an attacker to target or gain access to a system containing sensitive cardholder data. It's also important to implement web application firewalls in front of public-facing web applications so you can monitor, detect, and prevent web-based attacks. Something as simple as updating your software can make a world of difference for the security of your organization. Requirement 7, restrict access to system components and cardholder data by business need to know. By now, you know that you need to secure your sensitive data from attackers. But for requirement 7, you'll need to determine who exactly can access sensitive data and technology in your organization. The best policy is to limit access or exposure to cardholder data only to those employees whose jobs require it. Simply put, don't give people access to any sensitive data or the card data environment if they don't need it. The more people who have access to cardholder data, the more risk there is that a user's account will be used maliciously and compromised. Start by implementing a role-based access control system, which only grants access to card data and systems to individuals and groups on a need-to-know basis. Make sure to regularly define and update roles with access to the card data environment. This access list should include each role, definition of each role, access to data resources, current privilege level, and what privilege level is necessary for each person to perform normal business responsibilities. All users must fit into one of the roles you outline. Keep in mind that your role-based access control system isn't limited to your normal office staff. It applies to anyone who needs access to your systems in the area behind the desk. For example, the IT professional you hired to update your phone systems. Following this requirement will ensure that whoever has access should. Requirement 8, identify users and authenticate access to system components. When protecting your system and your data, it's essential to know who has access and how they're getting access. To be compliant with this requirement, you'll need to identify users and authenticate their access into your system. This means that making sure every employee has their own unique ID credentials and individual account on their laptop. When employees use somebody else's username and password, accountability gets messy and can get lost. From a logging and forensic perspective, it gets hard to determine who's done what when there are multiple people using the same account. Employees need their own username and password. When employees set up their passwords, they should not use generic accounts or passwords, shared group passwords, or passwords used for different services. Instead, set different, strong, long passwords for every service that you use, and changing these passwords at least every 90 days. Your passwords should also be at least 12 characters long. An easy way to remember complex passwords is by using passphrases. Passphrases are a group of words which might include spaces and punctuation, as well as numbers and special characters, if your system allows. Here's an example passphrase. We never drove to Vancouver in '84, but in '88. Long? Yes. But secure? Very secure. You also need to establish automatic account lockouts, where after a set number of failed login attempts, the system administrator has to unlock this account. For example, an account could be locked after 6 consecutive failed login attempts within a 30-minute period. If attackers only have 6 chances to guess your password, they'll likely fail. For cardholder data environment access, multi-factor authentication needs to be used. Multi-factor authentication means you're including at least 2 of the following factors. Something only you know, such as a username and a password or PIN number. Something only you have, such as a hardware token or smart card. Something only you are, such as a fingerprint, ocular scan, or a voice print. This is a pretty common standard for most apps and software these days. For example, an employee trying to access your cardholder data environment needs to enter their username and password, and then must enter a one-time password sent to their smartphone. A few extra security measures make a big difference in your organization's safety. Requirement 9, restrict physical access to cardholder data. We've talked a lot about the importance of securing your digital assets and data, but requirement 9 helps ensure that you've taken the proper measures for physically securing your sensitive information. It's vital that you protect any stored media, which includes paper documents, electronic files, or devices that contain cardholder data. For merchants, this can mean paper receipts or even copies. The best way to control a physical security threat is by having and following a physical security policy that covers your business's security protocol. For example, if you keep confidential information, products, or equipment in the workplace, keep these items in a secure, locked area. Another example is restricting access to network jacks, which will help prevent malicious individuals from plugging into your internal network and gaining access. Make sure there are adequate facility entry controls in place, like a badge system, to identify employee versus visitors, as well as locks on doors. Regularly document the following information: who has access to secured environments and their business needs, what, when, where, and why devices are used, a list of authorized device users, locations of where the device is and is not allowed, what applications can be accessed on the device, and logging of access attempts. It's also important to monitor and protect any card swipe devices or point-of-sale terminals for tampering or complete replacement. Control and limit employee access to sensitive areas and removable devices, making sure that only those employees that need access are allowed access. Employees need regular security training, since many might not know or remember how to protect payment card information. Above all, employees should be trained to question suspicious behavior. Encourage them to question or interact with anyone who doesn't work for your organization, especially if someone tries to enter your office not using main entrances or network areas. It's always better to be safe than sorry. Requirement 10, log and monitor all access to system components and cardholder data. Having a reliable breadcrumb trail back to any action that's taken place in your business will save you a lot of time and frustration if you have a breach. This requirement is essentially about the who, what, and when around accessing sensitive data within your organization by logging and monitoring users and their actions. It's important for your business to track all access to network resources and cardholder data. Most systems and software generate logs including operating systems, internet browsers, POS systems, workstations, anti-malware, firewalls, and IDS, IPS. Some systems with logging capabilities do not automatically enable logging. So it's important to ensure all systems create and collect logs. Some systems generate logs, but don't provide event log management solutions. Be aware of your system capabilities and install third-party log monitoring and management software as needed. Logs should be collected and sent to a central location, whether it's an on-site logging server or an online service. Organizations should establish a baseline of normal traffic to help better identify anomalies or suspicious behavior, then review their logs daily to search for errors, anomalies, or suspicious activities that deviate from the norm. Log alerts act as red flags that tell you when something malicious may be happening. Given the large amount of log data generated by systems and networking devices, you need to have an automated tool that can perform audit log reviews, create more accountability and security with proper log monitoring and maintenance. Requirement 11, test the security of systems and networks regularly. Once your security systems are established and you're confident in your setup, it's time to put it to the test. Requirement 11 wants to ensure that you're thoroughly testing your systems and networks security. Perform regular testing of your security systems and services. The type of systems that make up a business's IT environment influence the kinds of attacks that they're susceptible to. Because of this, a security testing plan should be tailored for its environment. For custom in-house applications, internal code review and testing, independent penetration testing can expose many of the weaknesses commonly found in application code. These types of scans and tests are the best line of defense in identifying weaknesses so they can be corrected before deployment. A vulnerability scan is an automated, high-level test that looks for and reports potential vulnerabilities in systems and applications. PCI DSS requires two types of vulnerability scanning: internal and external vulnerability scans. Think of your environment as a house. External vulnerability scanning is like checking to see if doors and windows are locked, while internal vulnerability scanning is like testing to see if bedroom and bathroom doors have locks that would prevent an intruder from moving to more sensitive areas once they've gained access to the house. For PCI compliance, passing quarterly vulnerability scan reports is a must. This means that if a vulnerability is discovered during a scan that is a high risk or that causes a scan to fail, you must work to resolve the issue and then rescan the affected system to show it was fixed. This requirement could be confusing or frustrating for merchants that have never needed to scan previously. Getting help with setting up scans will reduce their chance of failing their first time. Penetration testing takes vulnerability detection to the next level. Think of penetration testers as friendly, ethical hackers. Real people that analyze networks and systems, identify potential vulnerabilities, misconfigurations, or coding errors, and try to exploit them in order to point out weaknesses so you can protect your organization. Having a trusted expert try and break into your system is incredibly beneficial, as it makes your vulnerabilities immediately visible for repair before attackers get the chance to exploit them. Depending on how your business is required to validate PCI compliance, PCI DSS Requirement 11 may call for annual internal and external penetration testing. Even if not required for PCI compliance, performing regular penetration testing is a security best practice. Any organization can benefit by using a penetration test to measure the security of a system, application, or an entire network environment. In addition to annual penetration tests, it's smart to perform a penetration test whenever significant infrastructure changes occur to check if these changes introduced new vulnerabilities. If your organization fills out an SAQA, A-EP, D for merchants, or D for service providers, there are additional security requirements to keep in mind. Specifically, Requirement 11.6.1 details exactly how these organizations need to implement change detection procedures and technologies to alert personnel to unauthorized modifications to the HTTP headers and contents of the pages used to house the TP/SP iframe. Such tamper detection mechanisms must run at least weekly to look for unauthorized modifications to these critical web pages. Security Metrics offers a tool called Shopping Cart Monitor that helps meet this requirement. Security testing is one of the most effective ways to ensure your organization is prepared and protected against cyber threats. Requirement 12, support information security with organizational policies and programs. The final PCI requirement is about your organization's security policies and procedures. Businesses need security policies and programs to be physically documented and implemented. Policies should be easily accessible to all employees. Thoroughly documented security policies and procedures help forensic investigators see what security measures your company has in place and demonstrates your company's proactive approach to security. Documents to include in your security policy include employee manuals, policies and procedures, technology usage policies, third-party vendor engagement processes, which will include a list of all individuals or organizations that would interact with cardholder data on your behalf, and incident response plans, which will help you develop an action plan in an event of a breach. Organizations should perform an annual risk assessment that identifies critical assets, threats, vulnerabilities, and risks. This exercise helps organizations identify, prioritize, and manage information security risks. A risk assessment should also occur at least annually or after significant changes to your environment or your business processes. Part of a risk assessment is to assign a ranking or score to identified risks. This will help establish priorities and provide direction on what vulnerabilities you should address first. Methodically identifying, ranking, and mitigating risks can decrease the time an attacker can access and negatively affect your systems. Over time, it closes the door on these kinds of attacks. As for training your team, employees need to be given specific rules and regular training to be effective. A security awareness program that includes regular training, like brief monthly training or communications, will remind them of the importance of security, especially keeping them up to date with current security policies and practices. Here are some tips to help employees protect your sensitive data. Communicate often. Focus each month on a different aspect of data security, such as passwords, social engineering, or email phishing. Give frequent reminders. Emphasize data security best practices to your employees through emails, newsletters, meetings, or webinars. Train employees on new policies ASAP. Newly hired employees should be trained on security and PCI policies as quickly as possible. Make training materials easily available. Intranet sites are a great way to provide access to training and policy information. Set clear expectations. Don't present training as a list of do-nots. Rather, help employees see that they have a vested interest in protecting the organization and its business. Create incentives. Reward your employees for being proactive. Regularly test employees. Create an environment where employees aren't afraid to report suspicious behavior. Documentation and regular training helps protect your business from potential liability in the event of a breach. Thanks for watching PCI 101 by Security Metrics. You're now ready to start your journey towards PCI compliance. Congrats! Remember, following each of these requirements will aid in keeping your business safe and your customers secure. Feel free to come back and review any of these videos as you begin your compliance process. You can also explore securitymetrics.com for key insights, tools, and resources from our team of industry-leading PCI experts. Thanks for watching.